Good morning, girls and boys. Today I have another Bible story for you about David. Remember, Saul was afraid that God would make David the king instead of him. In our story last week, David's good friend Jonathan, King Saul's son, warned David that Saul planned to kill him. So now David is living in the wilderness. And David has 600 men with him, like a small army, who are loyal to him and not King Saul. Now, when David and his men were living in the wilderness, nearby there were some shepherds watching very large flocks of sheep and goats. They belonged to a very rich man named Nabal. He owned 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. That's a lot of animals. And David's men were good and kind men, just like David, and they did not steal any of the animals. Also, since they were trained to be fighters and had swords, they could protect the shepherds and their animals from thieves who wanted to steal their animals. How do you think the shepherds felt about David's men? Yeah, that's right. They were glad to have David's men there. They were like a wall of protection around them. Now, when the warm weather came and the sheep no longer needed their thick wool to keep warm, it was time to have a sheep shearing when the wool from the 3,000 sheep would be cut off. And all that wool is worth a lot of money, and it was customary for the owner of the sheep to have a big celebration. Now, in this scene, we see the house of Nabal. And Nabal was that rich man who owned all the sheep. And David had sent some of his men, right here, to talk to Nabal, and this is what they said. "Sir, we are men who are loyal to David, who's hiding in the wilderness because King Saul wants to kill him. While your flocks and shepherds have been in the field, we've kept watch over them. We didn't steal any of your animals. Moreover, we protected your sheep and animals from thieves. So, since it is now sheep shearing time and you're having a big celebration, we want to ask you to send some of your food and wine as a thank you gift to us." Well, what do you think Nabal said to that? David's men were polite. David's men had been doing a good thing for Nabal for a long time. Would Nabal do as they asked? No. Nabal was mean and selfish, and here's what he said. "I don't know this man named David. I never heard of this man who's the son of Jesse. David's like many other men who run away from their masters. Why should I give any of the food and drink from my celebration with the sheep shearers to David and his men? No, I won't do it." Nabal was really, really mean, wasn't he? When these men returned and told David what Nabal had said, David got really mad at Nabal and said, "Okay, men, 400 of you, strap on your swords. We're going to Nabal's house to kill him and all the men who work for him." And boys and girls, that doesn't seem like the right thing to do, does it? Let's see what God does about it. While David and his 400 men were on the way to do this terrible thing, Nabal's wife learned what happened. There we go. This scene is inside Nabal's house. And this young woman, her name's Abigail. Abigail is Nabal's wife. She hadn't heard what Nabal had said to David's men. Now, a shepherd came in that had been out there with the sheep, and he knew what the truth was. And he had also heard what Nabal had said to David's men. So here's what that shepherd said. "David's men were very kind to us. They watched over us in case some thieves came to steal some sheep, and David's men didn't steal anything for themselves either. And today, David sent some men to ask Nabal to send some food to his men as a gift. But Nabal was rude. You know Nabal. He would not share. So the men have gone back to David." Now Abigail thought to herself, "Oh no, Trouble is surely coming to this house today. So she got some donkeys and loaded them up with meat and bread and wine, and then she left to meet David. Okay, so here's Abigail and one of the servants. And here's the donkeys loaded up with lots and lots of good things to eat and to drink. And then she met David coming the other way, going towards Nabal's house, and David was wearing a sword and he looked really angry. So here's David. And here are some of all those men that were coming with David to murder people. And here's what Abigail said to David. Do not be concerned about my husband Nabal. He is such a foolish man. I'm sorry I didn't see your young men when they came to talk to my husband. He should have shared his food and drink from our celebration. He was really wrong to say that. Please, though, don't murder any of the men in my household. Don't be guilty of this great sin. See, I've brought lots of food and wine since my husband wouldn't do it himself. Then David said, Praise be to the Lord who has sent you to change my mind. If you hadn't met me and spoken kindly to me, every man in your household would have been dead by morning. Now go in peace. Then Abigail went home, but her husband was having his big celebration and he was too drunk to wine to talk to. So she didn't tell him what she had done. But in the morning she told him. Nabal was so shocked that his heart failed and he fell down like a stone. And then after about 10 days, he died. When David heard the news about Nabal, he praised God for avenging the insult that Nabal had done to him. And he praised God that Abigail had kept him from doing such a great wrong. And then, guess what else David did? David sent word to Abigail and asked her to marry him. And she did. So, boys and girls, think about how David got really mad in today's story. Yeah, Nabal was very unfair not to share his food, but David was going to murder Nabal and every man that worked for him. That was very, very wrong of David. And also, think about Abigail. She was so wise. She knew her husband was mean and that Nabal's answer to David's men was very harsh and unkind. And look how Abigail's gentle words soothed David's anger and made him realize that killing Nabal and all his men would be a great sin. So now I have a memory verse for you about our story. Here we are. So let's say this together, one line at a time. A soft answer turns away wrath. You say that. But a harsh word stirs up anger. You say that. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge. You say that. But the mouths of fools pour out folly. You say that. And we find that in our Bibles in Proverbs 15, 1 and 2. You say that. Let's do it together, a line at a time. A soft answer turns away wrath. You say that. But a harsh word stirs up anger. You say that. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge. You say that. But the mouths of fools pour out folly. You say that. Proverbs 15, 1 and 2. You say that. Then we'll say it together. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouths of fools pour out folly. And boys and girls, this memory verse is a very important one. When your friend or a brother or a sister gets angry with you, what should you do? If you just get mad at him in return, both of you will get even more angry, won't you? It's just like our Bible verse says, a harsh word stirs up anger. But if you're calm and patient and listen when someone is angry with you, it'll calm their anger and you won't get angry either. Look how our Bible verse also says, a soft answer turns away wrath. So try this the next time someone's angry with you. And remember also how Jesus was treated very badly many times during his life here on earth. He didn't get mad about it, but he always said something or did something for the good of the other person. Learning to do this yourself is part of becoming a mature Christian. So we want to be like the heroine in today's story, Abigail, and we especially want to be like Jesus. So bye, have a good week, and we'll have another story next week about David.